Marvel Studios has a problem. They're cooking right now over at Marvel Studios. A lot is about to be released by them: Captain America Brave New World, the Thunderbolts, the Fantastic Four. 2025 is a huge year for Marvel, and then after comes Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars, in which we'll see the return of Robert Downey Jr. as Doctor Doom in the MCU. But with that comes a big problem, and that is the lack of a setup and a build-up of Doctor Doom. Thanos was built up in years over the Infinity Saga. We were also shown how he had been manipulating some events that had been taking place, like how Loki was working for Thanos, and the Battle of New York was basically caused by Thanos. He sent Loki. But so far, at least to our knowledge, there is zero buildup for Doctor Doom. Now, this is a problem that can be solved, but it has to be done right. And a recent report may not only give us some insight about how Marvel is adding another huge multiversal element to the MCU, but also how Doctor Doom could turn into God Emperor Doom. As of right now, the problem with our big bad, Doom, is that he is going to be introduced literally at the end of the saga, with no build-up to him. He is literally debuting in Avengers Doomsday. And with that comes the question of how and why is Doom so powerful enough to be the big bad of the MCU? Now, I'm just speaking about the MCU here, as obviously we can easily say why he's so powerful by referring to the comics, but in the MCU, we haven't seen any of his story yet. In the comics, when the 2015 Secret Wars story happens, Doom has been well established throughout Marvel history, and within the specific story that led up to Secret Wars as well. And the story of Doom and the Beyonders is told before Avengers Secret Wars and finished during Secret Wars. So, here's the issue. A lot of people believe there needs to be some godlike being or beings that need to be introduced in the MCU for Doom to be able to take their power to become God Emperor Doom and rule Battleworld. Well, a recent report might offer a way that could happen in the MCU, in a way that would tie in relatively well with the stories we've heard so far in the MCU. The report is that the Watcher is going to be introduced in Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars, and not just one Watcher, but multiple Watchers are said to appear, according to the insider Daniel RPK. Now, we've seen the Watcher in the MCU already, in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, and we've seen that there is more than just one Watcher in What If Season 3, and this is definitely going to add a great multiversal aspect to the MCU, especially if you consider that Uatu breaks the rule of not interfering a lot. We saw it in What If, and in the comics, the Dreaming Celestial scans Uatu, and he learns that he broke this pact of non-interference almost 400 times. So I'd say Uatu is definitely going to interfere, especially when it comes to the destruction of the entire multiverse. But Marvel will definitely have to explain who the Watchers are in the films, because I don't think they can rely on millions and millions of people having watched What If. In fact, no chance. And with knowing who the Watchers are, knowing their history, and immense powers that they possess, you can start to see how they could play a massive role in Avengers Doomsday. And I think that they might actually take the place of the Beyonders in the MCU, because it might be really, really hard for general audiences who don't follow Marvel closely to handle a lot of different multiversal godlike beings being thrown into the MCU really quickly all at once. So introducing the Watchers and the Beyonders, plus we have the Celestials and other godlike beings like the Living Tribunal, who we actually saw in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, that could be quite a lot for people. So I believe Marvel Studios is going to dumb it down the best that they possibly could, especially when the multiverse is already pretty complicated. And make no mistake, the Watchers are incredibly powerful. They choose not to interfere, but as you might have seen in What If Season 3, they possess immense power, but they also possess the knowledge of every single universe in the multiverse. The Watchers watch over literally the entire universe, watching every single individual universe, and they deposit all of their knowledge into one giant Watcher called the One. So here's where my theory comes in about how Doctor Doom becomes a god. I think Doctor Doom will ultimately take the knowledge and the power of the One, and then also use the Cyclopedia Universum, which is a pocket dimension that the Watchers use to also store all of their information they've gained, in which Doom could use to access the entire multiverse. In the comics, Doom tries to save the entire multiverse before it gets destroyed. And since it seems like the Watchers are going to reveal themselves, at least Uatu is, you could see how Doctor Doom, trying to save the entire multiverse, might get pretty pissed off that the Watchers aren't doing anything to save the multiverse. If the Watchers refuse to step in and save the multiverse when they have the power to save it and prevent it from being destroyed, this could infuriate Doctor Doom to the point to where he takes their powers. And in a video I did earlier this week, I talked about how the Scarlet Witch might take the place of Molecule Man, since she is a Nexus being with powers that we really don't know how limited they are, if they are indeed even limited. She could have the power to take the powers of the Watchers. We did see her take Agatha's power, so maybe she has also learned how to take the powers of others. But of course, Marvel Studios, if they wanted to introduce Molecule Man, they should relatively soon. But whether it's Molecule Man or the Scarlet Witch, Doom could take the powers of the Watchers, but he doesn't necessarily even have to take their powers. He could simply just take their knowledge. That is way more than enough. He will have the knowledge of infinite universes at his disposal. With that knowledge, he can create tech, he can tap into sorcery better than ever before and explore the entire multiverse using both. Simply with the knowledge of infinite amounts of universes, he would be unstoppable, and he can do this by taking the Ultimate Machine from Uatu. The Ultimate Machine is connected to the Cyclopedia Universum, which would allow Doom to access everything in the multiverse, which would enable him to discover how to travel the multiverse. It would also give him access to a lot of power. This would also give him knowledge to everything Kang has ever done. And why would Doom do all of this? Well, like I mentioned, to save the multiverse. That's what he tries to do in the events leading up to Secret Wars, and that's what we've heard he's going to try to do in Avengers Doomsday. And we could actually link this to the plot of Doctor Strange 3 based on what we've heard so far. Clea and the Black Swans, a multiversal group, believe that Doctor Strange is the reason for the destruction of the multiverse. They explored this a little bit in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, where Mr. Fantastic said in their experience the greatest threat to the multiverse is Stephen Strange. This is supposedly going to be explored even more in Doctor Strange 3. And that's where Doom and Strange could actually team up like they do right before Avengers Secret Wars. Strange wants to undo the damage that he's done and help Doctor Doom stop the incursions. But they could realize that their powers alone and going universe to universe trying to stop incursions isn't exactly going to work. And that's where the Watcher, Uatu, could chime in, but tell him that he can't interfere to stop the incursions. That's where Doom could take his powers or take the knowledge he has and ultimately realize that they can't save the multiverse. Which is what happens in Marvel Comics. Doom tries to save the multiverse but ultimately realizes he can't. So Doom, with Molecule Man and Doctor Strange by his side, attacks the Beyonders and he takes their powers. And he decides to try and save one thing, one world, Battle World, and he becomes a god. And I think that could be what we're leading to in the MCU. Doom getting ultimate power and ruling Battleworld. And that power, I think, could come from the Watchers, and this would solve the problem of why Doom is such a huge threat. When they introduce him, no doubt they'll show that he's pretty powerful. He knows some sorcery, he's incredibly smart, and most likely has some crazy tech. But what makes him a Thanos-level threat, or even bigger? Him getting the powers of ancient godlike beings who watch over the entire multiverse. That'll definitely do the trick. And again, since they're planning to introduce the Watchers, it might be best to have Doom take their powers instead of introducing a lot of different godlike beings into the story. But that's just my theory. Of course, they could introduce the Beyonders or heck, go a completely different route. But this would establish Doom as a insanely huge threat, which I think Marvel Studios really needs to do when they introduce Doctor Doom. But go ahead, let me know what you think about this theory in the comments down below. Please don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the latest MCU news, rumors, leaks, or theories. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, and as always, thank you all so much for watching. Woof woof.